So I've been thinking about the stuff we tell people the well-intentioned stuff we tell people who are healing. I talk about this a lot on the subreddit. People tend to mistake the result of their healing process for the cause of healing. So they get to the end and they come to a place of, like, let's say, forgiveness towards a person who's hurt them. And they assume that that is actually what created the healing. The reason everybody gets confused, though, is because that's kind of happening right around the time when you start to feel at peace. You start to feel healed. So it makes sense to associate those two, but it ain't correct. So when we tell people who are healing, really from anything, but when we tell them stuff like, oh, all you have to do is, like, forgive a person, or all you have to do is have a gratitude practice, or all you have to do is, oh gosh, what do we tell people? Those are the two. Love yourself. Like, oh, all you have to do is love yourself. These are people who do not understand. Healing is a process. And everybody's on their own journey, and we all kind of, we're moving in stages, we're moving forward, but, like, we ain't necessarily there. So one of the things that comes up is this idea that if you just tell yourself a thing over and over again, that you'll start to believe it, and it's going to change your reality. That is wrong. And I know it seems weird for me to be the person that's all like, that's not correct. But honestly, it does not work. If you are in a place and you do not love yourself, going to yourself every day, I love myself, that's not going to change nothing. All you do is you feel inauthentic and that you're lying to yourself. And this also works for people kind of in more of a spiritual practice of affirmations or like mantras, or trying to like change their mindset about something. That is not how it works, because we can say a thing over and over again, but that doesn't mean that we believe it. What's a really great example? Okay, it's kind of like an Are We the Baddies example, but I'm not going to lie, it's effective. Fox News has done a remarkable job of programming people for a specific paradigm, right? And it's not just because they repeat a thing over and over again. It's because what they do is they might repeat a thing, but then they also go, and here are all of these examples, true or not, of why this is accurate. This is true. We're going to come up with these reasons as to why this is true. So they're changing people's perception filter. If you start to watch Fox News, if you start to listen to conservative radio, it's going to subtly change your paradigm, because they're changing your perception filter. They're changing what information you take in. So it's not just somebody repeating at you a fact. It's the fact that as they say this to you, or as we say this to ourselves, we start looking for where that's true. Now with Fox News, if anybody is pro Fox News, this is not the channel for you. Just because it's a steady diet of fear, persecution, victimization, anger. You're just feeding these people fear and anger all day long, over and over again. Really, I don't think watching news is a good idea in general, but that's a topic for another video. But anyway, so we're trying to change something, a belief within ourselves. Just repeating a mantra to ourselves, just repeating an affirmation, just repeating a thing is not going to make it happen. So if you go, I love myself, but you don't, or you don't feel that way, you don't think it's true. Someone can tell you a thing over and over again. If you don't believe it, you're not going to internalize that concept. Now, when someone starts telling you a thing and then they start to give you examples, this is where it gets tricky, because if this person's not a reliable narrator, such as, let's say, Fox News, such as an abusive or toxic person. So if they're telling you a thing and they're going, yeah, and these are all these things that you're doing wrong, they go, oh man, is that right? And that starts to adjust your perception filter. So if we want to move toward a specific belief, what we have to do is adjust what information we're taking in and where we're putting our focus. So if you, let's say, interact with somebody, let's say you're interacting with somebody in a transactional purchase. You are buying something at a store and you're being friendly and they are not being friendly back to you. This is me in New York City, by the way. I did not enjoy New York City at all. But anyway, so you can interact with that person, right? And go, oh my gosh, why don't they like me? I must be unlovable. Now, what you've done is you've taken a piece of information in and applied a paradigm based off your belief to interpret it and could come to a conclusion. That conclusion, not necessarily accurate. Because I mean that person doesn't know you, and maybe they're irritated by you, but maybe they're irritated by just being at work. Maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're having a bad month, maybe somebody at home is not doing well. Maybe there's just a lot of shit going on. I know, and definitely an area of improvement for me, but I know the busier I get at work, the less the less friendly I am, the more I'm just like, I'm in the zone trying to get stuff done. So I'm not necessarily like super friendly. Let's take a moment and chat. So, it could just be that person's busy, right? So if we're drawing a conclusion to uphold a belief we have, what you want to do is you want to relook and re-examine. Like, oh, this person didn't seem to be very friendly to me. It could mean this, could mean this, it could mean this. Now, when you start challenging your own beliefs, and you start recontextualizing, like maybe it means something else. You start shifting that perception filter. You start shifting that paradigm you have. And eventually you start shifting that belief. And then, oh my gosh, like there's this beautiful place that occurs when you're further along in your healing process. When you suddenly don't take things personally, the way people interact with you, that's reflective of where they're at. That has nothing to do with you. Now, am I always in that space? No. But I'm going to tell you, when you're in that space, it is the best. Like, you just, it feels like Neo in the Matrix, just brushing aside bullets. It's not even from a place of, like, you're not overpowering anybody. You're not like, oh, I'm better than them. It literally doesn't register to you necessarily that it has anything to do with you. And maybe it does, so what, Like, people are entitled to not like us. People are entitled, like, I can be a lot. I can be very extra. That's not in everybody's wheelhouse, Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means we're not vibing. And that's fine. So anyway, there's a deck of cards that I've read when I've done cards before. And it's the legendary affirmation cards. And I decided one day after doing a video, I divided them into two piles. I divided them into the piles where I was like, yeah. And then the other piles where I was like, and what I recognized was like my yeah pile was stuff I already believe. Like this is already stuff that I've internalized as a belief that's true for me. Whereas the other pile is stuff like, like I go the extra mile and nothing's out of my reach. I read that and I'm like, I don't know about that. Or I manage my time like a boss and everyone wonders how I do it all. I mean, I manage enough time for I'm good enough, so like the brain kicks in. There are no obstacles that I cannot conquer. Like, come on now. I don't believe this. That's not a thing that I believe. So I'm going to read this card every day and be like, there are no obstacles that I cannot conquer. My rational brain kicks in and goes, well, we like go to war, somebody dies, like there's shit I cannot control that could be very epic and terrible. We could, like a meteor could hit. Like, I don't know that I believe this. So anyway, if you're a person and you're reading through affirmations and you're like, it makes you feel uncomfortable and you don't believe it. That lets you know that this is not a belief that you have internalized, and whether or not you should, that's, I don't know that I necessarily believe that I need to be able to, overcome all obstacles. I kind of personally think like that's why we live in communities. That's why we're human beings and we live together. You know, I do not need to be a person that can overcome any obstacle. But, you know, I could also interpret that card from a perspective of, you know, I don't need the world to be certain because I'm certain about myself and how I handle things. Now, maybe I could vibe with that. But anyway, so like when I look at that card, I'm like, me reading this to myself every day isn't going to magically make me go, oh, there are no obstacles I cannot conquer. That's not how this works. Because underlying everything is we're addressing belief systems. So, for example, like my hell yeah pile was stuff like, I consume content that lifts me up. Girl, yes. Or boy, yes. You know, like, heck yeah, I do. I make content that lifts me up. You know, I 100% yes, on board believe that. My home is a clean, warm, and happy place that supports my well-being. Yo, I'm super proud of me. Watch this. I actually did all this. You can't see it. Oh well. I actually did all this stuff yesterday. I did so good. So yeah, like I be feeling that card super strongly today. Like I believe it, you know. So I could absolutely say to myself, like, yeah, my home is a clean, warm, and happy place that supports my well-being. Man, I spent 4 hours last night in the middle of the night making that happen, you know. Actually, I'm not so focused on clean, more like organized and enough space for family to be a family. But anyway, I fill my mind with positive and nourishing thoughts. Boom, hell yeah, I do. Now, was this always the case? No, it was not. Especially when I was spending a lot of time around very negative people. Now, I never watched Fox News, so was not impacted by that particular brand of anger, negativity, persecution, victimizing, fear, anger, fear. But I have interacted with people who are like that. And it's very hard to fill your mind with positive and nourishing thoughts when this is going on around you. So I can say that now. But I would not have been able to say that, before at times in my life. Let's see. I'm a better me today. Yes, I try every day. You know, people have this perspective you gotta be your best self. You know what? Sometimes I'm my best self. Sometimes I'm not my best self. Sometimes I'm just my better self. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, I didn't do great. I'm gonna be better tomorrow. You know what I mean? Shifting from a pass-fail mindset to a growth-learning mindset, y'all, it's beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's so much better for our sense of ourselves. So much better. Anyway, speaking of sense of ourselves, my friend got me this because she knows me. I love Mr. Rogers. I post about him. Not all the time, but I have posted about him frequently in the subreddit before. Anyway, if you press the little thing.
Do you have some favorite neighbors where you live? I mean, real neighbors with whom you can talk and play and ask for help if you need it? I hope so.
Here's the thing. Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross were the two people I could always go to if I couldn't access feeling loved by other people, or I couldn't access feeling love for myself, or compassion, or empathy, or grace. It really does matter what we take in. It matters who we interact with. It matters where we get our information. So is reading a card and saying, my partner is everything I wished for and more, is that going to make it true? Is reading a card going to make it true? No. What makes things true is when we recognize where it is in our life and we water those seeds and we step back from stuff that isn't good for us, that puts us in a fear place, that makes us feel shame. Even if we make a mistake, you want to be surrounded by people that are like, oh yeah, I make mistakes too. We're all human, totally get it. Versus, the shaming, right? So can we be our better selves? Can we be our best selves with the negative, critical, judgmental people? Maybe at first, but I think honestly, it does become an attrition on our sense of who we are. Anyway, I hope this made sense. It covers a little bit of manifesting, a little bit of affirmations, a little bit of like positive self-talk wherever we're at in our belief systems. Because again, I don't even know what's true anymore, theologically speaking. But I do know what works for people psychologically. So what works for people psychologically is shifting their perception filter, is identifying where things already exist. Not, I'm going to repeat a thing I don't believe. What you have to do is you have to change your belief system. And then you can read the things and be all like, hell yeah, I'm supported by supportive people who believe in me. Yes. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. And I'll talk to you next time.